Hey there, YouTube. I'm Ikitsu. This is the Ikitsu Times. Welcome to my channel. Welcome to a little bit of Sins of a Solar Empire 2. So today we're going to be talking about the Kalev Gauss Frigate, and this is a unit that I absolutely would have had to redo after the patch that came out with the sort of DLC. So this is a unit that used to be kind of just bad. It was capable enough at doing its one particular job, but it could only do that one job, and it still could be countered by it. It's an anti-capital, anti-building siege type unit that you can use as an alternative to the long-range missile ships. It sort of fills the same role. Let's take a quick look at its statistics here, and then we'll
Yeah,
talk a little bit about why that has changed. So durability 125, armor 605, 685 hull points, 150 antimatter. Its damage per second is only 7.7 with 600 pierce. 7.7 damage per second is not very good, but 600 pierce is very, very good. So this is what makes it not necessarily the best DPSer. And for its cost, you're paying for something that's like fairly pricey, but has got Cobalt frigate type durability there overall. Pretty similar vein to that. We got an armor strength of 25. We've got a maximum speed of 800. So these things are not super tough. They're not super fragile. They're kind of like just normal frigate value, but let's take a look at their cost over here. What you're looking at here is its 6 supply, which is pretty expensive for what it is. It's 310 credits, which is pretty cheap. 65 metal and 75 crystal. The 75 crystal is the absolute killer there. If we compare that to the Cobalt Light Frigate, you can see actually pretty similar in terms of like the credits and pretty similar in the metal, but 75 crystal on top of that is pretty expensive considering that you're getting less damage per second and you're getting less durability and you're spending more on supply. You're really paying a premium for that 600 pierce because 600 pierce is really, really good. You need 500 to be able to deal full damage to capitals, and there are not very many early game ships in the game that are capable of dealing full damage to capital ships. The Kalev is just about the only thing that can really do that. Still, the way that the statistics shake out is that if you're playing Kalevs in the early game, the enemy frigates, enemy corvettes, all that other stuff, you're wasting a lot. The 600 Pierce doesn't matter against any of those because everything's got like 100 durability. And there's not a ton of targets that are really worth getting Kalev Gauss frigates for in that section of the game. What's worse, they don't scale very well into the late game when you could also be getting your long range missile platforms. They do have the added benefit that they can't be countered. So if you had a choice of the Kalev Gauss frigate or getting a whole ton of missile launchers, the Kalev could actually be the better choice in the late game because your opponent might just have access to a whole bunch of flak. If they've got that, then this thing infinitely outperforms any missile ships that are out there. So there are niches for this, and it is purely to do with whether or not you can kill capital ships with them, which they're very, very good at. But they do poorly against virtually everything else up until now. This is what's changed in the sort of new patch there. So when you research these things, when you go up a tier, you can also get the coil shock ability. This was a new ability in the DLC, and it makes it so that they're much more versatile and can be used as a kind of sort of support caster unit that you can use as an auxiliary to your fleet. The coil shock has a massive 2-minute cooldown, but it's got a very, very good range. High antimatter cost, but it doesn't really matter because the 2-minute cooldown means that you'll be fine at just casting it whenever it's up. 150 shield damage chained to up to 3 additional targets, so up to 600 shield damage, 500 pierce. That means that you're going through capitals with that. Charge delay of 3 seconds, and that just means it takes a while to charge up. Not really dodgeable in a practical sense at those ranges. What this ultimately means is that you've got the ability to take an enemy fleet that's like any composition except for certain early game Terran ones, do a huge burst of damage to whatever kind of target you're dealing with. Whether it's swarms, you can do that with the AoE and make sure that you're focusing on those guys to just sort of finish them off. If you're dealing with capital ships, it's extra damage, so you're able to expand on that advantage against capital ships. If it's against cruisers, you can sort of hit them with the coil shock and then have other things move in to finish them off. It helps against pretty much every target, and it helps even if you're not using a ton of these guys. You just make sure you're coil shocking a cluster of things. You focus down those ones. You go to the next one. Because if you got like say 5 of these guys, that's a lot of shield damage that you're outputting just instantly, making it easy for you to wipe out whatever you're focusing with that. It helps you deal with a lot of advent bullshit in particular, but you still have the ability to use this against pretty much every other faction. If you've got a bunch of Vasari, this still works against them. There's no reason it wouldn't. If you're up against Tech, you have to focus this on their capitals during the early game, but it's still really good to be able to burst down a bunch more of their shields. There's no reason that that wouldn't be a good thing. The only thing that this really falters at is like early game tech if they're fighting you with a lot of frigates or something like that. If they just send a whole bunch of Cobalt light frigates, yeah, obviously Coil Shock's not going to do anything. Those ships don't have shields until they've researched it, and if they just don't research it, then this never does anything. It would still be worth getting the shields on the Cobalts, but yeah. So this, even though it has low damage per second of like 1.5 damage per second, or even less than that, I think it's like 1.25. This is still a fantastic ability. In terms of it being just very front loaded damage, it's just like all a big burst that happens all at once and is capable of chaining to multiple targets and is capable of like disabling capital ships. It's very, very good. Now, one of the other reasons why I previously didn't like this unit is actually the upgrade path that it used to have there. Scaling into the later game, you've got the quick Gauss capacitors at a pretty good minus 15% weapon reload rate. That's basically a 15% damage increase. It doesn't actually shake out to that, I don't believe, but it's close enough for my purposes. This is actually pretty good. The problem is that that's all it gets. It doesn't have anything else, so it gets outscaled in terms of the bonuses from pretty much every other weapon out there. You might be looking at this and being like, oh, well, that adds it. No, this one's a range upgrade, 15% extra range. And then this one is only for capital ships where you can add it to them as an equipped item. This is very strong. 100% extra Gauss weapon damage is very, very strong. You can't equip it on your Kalevs. They're not allowed to have that. So you've got the 15% damage increase. You don't even have the bonuses from your passive up here. So you kind of don't scale up super, super well with this. By contrast, if you've got missiles, you're using the Javelises, the missile upgrades do go up to 30%, so they're capable of getting a little bit higher up there. The Ogrovs, I believe, get 20%. No, I think they're also 30%. So you're capable of getting a lot more damage bonuses onto the other types of ships there compared to the Kalev, but the Kalev nowadays, thanks to this, is still capable of competing in the later game. I think they're a viable alternative path to those other ships. Over here, we've got the Advanced Metallurgy, we got the Titanoferric Plating, and we got the Repellent Premium Armor. Again, depending on your matchup, these guys are going to be useful at all stages of the game to some extent. So they actually kind of use the whole tree a little bit more than some of the other frigates that we talked about. Still, they are pretty squishy by the late game, so don't expect them to necessarily survive a ton, even if they get the Repellent Premium Armor. They're still probably going to die pretty quickly, but it does definitely help. Their base hit points are actually kind of okay. Like I said, they're about the same as a Cobalt's. So these bonuses apply in the same way to these guys as they do to a Cobalt. I don't think that they really need the efficient generators or the potent reaction chaining. The duration of their cooldown is so long that they're kind of getting back up to full pretty much on time anyway. Technically, there are some situations where these would really make a difference. But I think that after 2 minutes of waiting for their cooldown to come up, you're probably like have decided to fight ideally, preferably, or they're all dead because they're kind of high priority target. For other upgrades, we've got, of course, the Frigate Shield Refit. Unlike the other two basic combat early game frigates, these guys actually get 600 shield points from this, making it a very good investment for them. Plus 600 shield points makes it so that they're getting like a 50% boost to their hit points, which is really, really good. And over here we got like their improved shield arrays and their superior shield emitters, which are kind of fine. These things, like all in all, make this thing pretty tanky for a frigate, but it's still going to be a high priority target that's going to get killed pretty fast by most things that are going after it. The main thing that sort of makes this really good remains the fact that it is very good damage against capital ships, and against everything else, the Coil Shock is still a really good sort of supporting tool. If you have a handful of these guys, you can use the Coil Shock to weaken a cluster of enemy troops from all of your Kalevs working together, and you can focus fire down those targets that got Coil Shocked. And if they're frigates, that is still fantastic. Like you're taking a cluster of frigates and you're killing them, say 30% faster, or even faster than that. If you're firing at a capital ship, you can get that burst damage to like drop their shields way faster. If you're fighting against the Vasari, they've got decent shields on all their ships. You can do the same thing to them. The only thing you wouldn't really want to do is like just coil shock a whole bunch of advent ships and then watch as they regain all their shields with shield burst. You would actually have to sort of follow through with that. But if your follow through is you've got a whole bunch of, say, just regular kobolds that are going after some of their high priority stuff, you like hit their high priority stuff with the Kalevs, you hit the coil shock on all those guys. Suddenly, you're doing a lot better with the kobolds. You can use the coil shock to wipe out a whole ton of shields from their Iconis Guardians, making them really vulnerable because they rely heavily on those shields. It's a pretty good ability. I think that it lets them flex into sort of more anti-ship roles than just the one where they're attacking capitals. It really does help that they have an AoE sort of chain on the ability. That's kind of, in my opinion, what makes this more versatile than just an anti-capital killer. For other bonuses that you can get for this thing, you're looking at things like the counter deployment, you're looking at things like the garrison bonuses, you're looking at, of course, the labor negotiations, industrial complex, industrial juggernaut. And these things can be masked. I don't think that it matters as much that you build these things quickly or in mass numbers as some of the other ships out there, because like I said, if you're using them for their ability to knock out shields, they kind of work better in a supportive type role, in my opinion, rather than being like something you've built 100 of, because if you built like too many of these guys, you wipe out some shields and stuff, you kill those things really quickly, but after that your damage per second falls off really badly on your entire navy. So I think that having them like selectively take out the shields of a couple things is really good, but you only mass them if you really need to take out a lot of capitals that all have a lot of point defenses. So further down, of course, you do also have your culture bonus to maximum speed, which does help these guys a little bit. So yeah, these things I think went from being an incredibly niche unit that was only really good for one thing, which was they did full damage to a capital ship. That was pretty much the only reason you would take these guys. If you're fighting frigates, they're not very cost effective. If you're fighting like heavy cruisers, they're not very cost effective. They do okay into those, but they're not exactly cost effective because like things like Harkas, their weapons are designed to kill things like Kalevs, so kind of 50-50 on that. You could do well against something like Destra Crusaders or the Penetrators. Those things get kind of like out-traded by Kalevs, but it's not necessarily the most cost-effective gun out there against the majority of targets that are in this game. The fact that so many people, though, do rely on capitals did mean that I think that the Kalev Gauss frigate, and if you can kill someone's capitals, like, you have a humongous advantage. But I think that's what gave Kalev's, like, some niche appeal and some ability to do work. But now I think that they're a good all-arounder, and you don't need them in mass numbers because you're not necessarily using these guys just to snipe out a capital. In any event, though, that is going to be our video for today. Hope you found this one enjoyable, and of course, as always, hope to see you guys all next time.